What's happening, guys? Today I have another common concern on Ford vehicles that you may be experiencing, especially this time of year when we're getting into the hotter months, when we're using the AC more often. Now what happens is you're driving, you start the vehicle up, it's a nice hot day, it's hot in here, but the AC is working great. Okay, it's coming out of the vents, there's no problem with the AC system. Okay, let's go home. So we go ahead and we take off from a stop sign, you give it some throttle, all of a sudden it gets hot in here. All your cool air went away. What's happening? Now this concern can also happen when you're taking off to get onto an on-ramp for an expressway, high RPM situations where there's low engine vacuum. And that is the source of the concern. And today we're going to show you exactly what's happening and how to fix it. Now before you start tearing apart the dash and trying to get to the HVAC module and start checking vacuum motors and such, you want to make sure that your vacuum supply is alive and well. And it gets the vacuum from the engine. So the way they usually come over is they'll tap off a part in the engine and then it'll kind of bring the main vacuum line over to the passenger side firewall area, and then it'll start branching off to different components. Like here we have the 4x4 switching for the IWEs, stuff like that. And then there's a couple of different check valves, you can see them right there, that go to different sources. And I've seen that check valves cause concerns every once in a while. It's not too common. But what you want to make sure of is that the actual vacuum is coming over from the engine. You can see it going over right there. And that just branches off to a few different things. So there's a lot of different areas in here where there can be concerns with vacuum leaks or lines that fall off. So verify that first. You can use your finger, okay, just put it on the end of it, it'll suck right to it with the engine running, or you can use a vacuum gauge. And what's common is stuff like this right here. You see that? This happens more often than you think. There's these heater control valves that stop the coolant flow on a lot of Ford trucks. I don't really see it on the cars too often. But what it does, it stops the coolant flow into the HVAC case. So there's not a hot source and a cool source trying to fight each other. So this will come on and get vacuum when the AC is on. It'll cut off the coolant flow. Makes sense, right? Well, then you're going to have a vacuum leak right in the branch. Okay, you can see it that goes down and over to the vacuum source that's going through the firewall to feed all the vacuum motors inside the HVAC case. Now your engine isn't always going to have sufficient vacuum to run all these little different vacuum motors, EGR valves, fuel pressure regulators, all that kind of stuff, and even the interior components like the HVAC case vacuum motors. So what did the engineers do? Well, what they did to overcome that, in case there's any sustained high RPM operation, is they all incorporate a vacuum reservoir. And what this does is it supplies enough vacuum during those high throttle applications. Now, what's common on these is for the reservoir itself to crack. There's a seam around the outside here, and they crack and they lose vacuum. Therefore, you have a loss of vacuum, and then you also don't have a reservoir anymore. So it like hits you double duty there. So look for that. That's in the back side of the battery. This one's exposed, but on the F-150s, they're kind of buried behind there, and they clip in to the back side of the battery box. Okay, so there is one back there, you just gotta look for it. Now in the Explorers and stuff like that, they're in the passenger side footwell area. There's like a big cylinder looking thing underneath there, and you'll definitely be able to see that and check that for leaks and stuff like that. But these are a common source for leaks also. The very thing that's supposed to supply vacuum during high RPM is leaking. So don't overlook that when you're looking for the source of the leak coming to the HVAC case. Now if you can't locate the source of the vacuum leak under the hood here, what you're going to have to do is find where it goes through the firewall. Right about there, you can see there's a little grommet and it goes through the firewall on the passenger side here. Follow this black vacuum line through, and you're going to check the vacuum source where it meets the vacuum selector inside of there and make sure it's making it to it. That's pretty much it though, but as you can see, the reason why I say check everything out here, it's all out in the open. Once you get inside, it becomes quite intrusive into the dash and all that stuff. So you get in tight spaces, and usually you can't even see the vacuum line. So hopefully it helps.